some of the things I've noticed, we're gonna be having like the big vote this year on,
H
you
one,
know,
two, three, four.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had some random people ask me about it from time to time on like Lyft rides and stuff. So I always give my 2 cents
On what? On having an H one, two,
on
three, four
being like
resolution.
yeah, being like a true, being an independent contractor versus an employee.
Yeah.
I think you and I have very similar views on the subject, and but there seems to be a pretty big swath of people here that do want to be employees, which I just don't understand. But um,
It's odd. It's the same. That's the same thing that happened in California was, there was a, there was a decent enough amount of people making noise. And because those people were making noise about wanting to be employees and be with unions and all these things that are just like, are you serious? This is what you want? I mean, if that's what you want, I've always said this, you probably heard me say it, is like, dude, just go out and get a job, a different
yeah,
job. Like, go get a
yeah,
W-2, because it sounds like you want a W-2 job. So my point is always like, that's what you want. Do you want to work for Uber or Lyft as your W-2? Because there's thousands of better W-2 jobs than if these companies have to move to that.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
I mean, like, if I mean, to me, it's like it's that simple. Do you want to be an independent contractor or W-2? And I honestly think that, look, for me anyway, I have a lot of pre-gig economy independent contractor work under my belt, so I actually understand independent contractors. I have a feeling that many people don't even truly know what it is. They're just like, well, I'm an independent contractor. How so? Because I work the gig platforms. Well, what does it mean? I don't know.
yeah,
I think that's really what it comes down to.
yeah.
Or,
And those
well,
are the
what does that mean to you? It means that my taxes are more difficult. Like, it's like they really don't get it.
yeah,
And the platforms don't want them to get it. They like saying it because it sounds good, like you're your own boss and this and that.
yeah,
But even in California, where Prop 22 is like a filler right now, I mean, I know enough people that I talk to where there's a lot of union shilling coming down the pipe, and they're going to really try and push for, um that you can, right now you can, because they don't have a system in place, but they're going for a universal system to make sure you're not multi-apping. So if you have one app on and you turn another app on, you can get fined. So these people have no idea. They're like, even the gig workers who were like, no, I want to remain an independent contractor, and then they made Prop 22 so that you get that minimum pay. Now they're like, well, if you so yeah, I get the Prop 22 pay that adds to my pay, so I'm doing great. So even the gig economy people that I know who don't want to be employees are like kind of like enjoying Prop 22. I'm like, well, enjoy it for a very brief time, because that's not going to be what it is for
yeah,
very long. It's not.
yeah. I
It's
just
like
don't see how.
Seattle, like Washington State was about to do the exact same thing as California. And luckily, I think that what they're doing is okay, because they're just doing it for the rideshare drivers. And I think the rideshare driver, and it's a little different too, because it's more in compliance with like the taxi and limousine commission.
Mhm.
So to me, that's fair, because the taxi and limousines get that too. And you are a for hire driver. So that's a little different. But they made it specific to if you have passengers in the car. All other apps that are gig apps, if you don't have a passenger in the car, you're not going to be under that law.
Hmm.
And that, because to me, I talked to people in California, and the rideshare drivers see nothing of Prop 22. It's only the delivery people.
Really?
Well, yeah, because Prop 22 guarantees, so California minimum wage varies from $16 an hour to $20 an hour. Okay. And the gig platforms have to pay you 120% of minimum wage in your area. So if you're in San Francisco, where it's $20, that means that Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Grubhub, um, uh, Uber Eats, yeah, all of these have to pay you in San Francisco. They have to pay you $24 an hour. Now,
Hmm.
they have to take the tip out. So like that means base pay. Okay.
Yeah.
So in California, base pay, let's use DoorDash. Base pay for DoorDash in California is $3. Okay. Now I don't know any delivery drivers really. A couple claim maybe, but I doubt it. And I'm not talking about stacked orders, but there's a lot of delivery drivers out there that I talk to who are like, I can't do more than 2 an hour. And that seems about right to me. So at 2 an hour, that's that at base pay of $3, that's $6. Okay. So if you live in San Francisco, they got to pay you 24. Now the customer is taking on part of it because the people who are ordering have to pay Prop 22 money of $2 per order. So you got the base pay of 3 plus 2, that's 5. So if you're doing 2 per hour, that's $10 that DoorDash is paying you. If you're doing 2 per hour on active time, and then they have to, so now DoorDash for every hour has to write you $14. And that's if you did 2.
Yeah.
So, I mean, every hour they're losing money. And if you multi-app right now, like I was just talking to a couple different people that do Grubhub, Uber Eats, and DoorDash, and they all collect active time for all of them. And they don't work in sync, and they don't have even though they share data already, the platforms,
Yeah.
they don't have a way of using that mechanism. So if you're working active time, let's say in a 90-minute period that you're working all 3 platforms and you get an hour of active time in each one, because maybe you get a Grubhub and then somewhere in there you get a DoorDash and an Uber Eats, and somehow during that 90-minute period you got an hour of active time on all 3 platforms, let's say, you're going to be paid $24 an hour by each
one
for the same hour and a half.
Yeah. Oh, so is that why they put that mechanism in place then for like you can't multi-app in certain circumstances?
Well, no, that's
So
not.
that doesn't happen.
It's not in place yet. I mean, they say you can't do it, but there's nothing that will catch you yet. But they've been, when they passed Prop 22, they said no more multi-apping, and people are forgetting about that. But that's about to turn a corner with the unions here, and they're about to have a system in place that says, okay, you pick your platform, and and they're still going to allow flex time. I just think one thing's going to go away at a time. First, it's going to be you can work one app only. Then it's going to be bye-bye flex time.
Yeah.
Then it's going to be pick blocks of time or work for a franchise or all these types of things. And people are just crazy. I mean, I do tell them, enjoy it while you can, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, abuse it. I mean, these companies abuse us, abuse it, but don't bank your living on it right now. Cause I guarantee you, even 6 months, maybe, but next year, this time, this will not be the same situation. There's going to be more regulation.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of stuff coming down the pipe that people out there are like making it look to the rest of the country like, you guys want this. And I'm talking about the gig workers like you and I who are against unions and this type of regulation. They're even out in California going, you want Prop 22 stuff. Dude, this is great. I'm making like $70 an hour from the companies plus tips because I work all 3 platforms. It's like, dude, that is not going to last. That's why it's happening, is because they want you saying that and getting that buzz out there so that other states are like, well, dude, in California, my brother's making $100 an hour.
Yeah.
Doing nothing pretty much. You know, it's like, if you think that's going to be the pay to deliver food, you're crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
it's not gonna last. That's for sure.
No, I mean, because I mean, I don't know about you, but I tell some of the content creators in California, I say, you need to say, when you do a live stream or whatever, you need to say, hey, listen, I'm going to talk about California today. I'm going to be talking about Prop 22 money. The other 49 states, you guys can just tune out because this doesn't apply to you and it will mean nothing.
Well, it doesn't apply to them yet. It would eventually apply to them.
I think they should be saying it like that. Just talk to your California base, because, you know, the rest of us we all have seen, you know, when a startup comes in, they pay well. So like, I'm all about Curry. I love Curry and I love some other platforms. I'm okay with Shipt. I'm okay with a lot of some of them, but they come in hot, they pay really well. But I think, you know, as well as I do, it's never even like this. It's always downhill.
Yep.
I mean, over time, they take away per mile, they take away per minute.
Yep.
They just pick away at things until they're finding where the breaking point is.
Yeah. Well, Lyft and Uber have been the king of that. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I've got tons of rides under my belt, and I can honestly say that, like, I even took my affiliate link for Uber and Lyft out of my show notes.
Yeah.
Because I don't want,
I know you've said that before.
Yeah. I don't want people signing up for it and then going, well, I'm not making anything. And I would have to go, I didn't ever say you would, but you had the affiliate link. I don't want to be sounding like I'm endorsing them. I've just worked them since 2014 and I've made a lot of money with them.
Yep.
I still could go out and make some money, but it's a harder hustle now.
No, it definitely is.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
still money to be made, especially like right now, we're a little lacking in drivers. You know, it comes and goes in waves.
It's pretty saturated here now,
but I have a feeling that the delivery platforms are about to get spanked here, and I'm already seeing it. People are like, you know, I know you were talking about months ago that we're going to see a downfall in the delivery space. And I was telling you, no, but I am seeing it now. And I'm like, of course you are. And if you thought they were just going to, I mean, the delivery game was dead until the pandemic hit.
yep.
So, I mean, there was no delivery game until the
Yeah.
pandemic hit. Even though those platforms were out, I knew people on Uber Eats I was like, how is that going for you? When I was doing rideshare, and they're like, I don't get anything on that. That's a joke. And then the pandemic hit and they all went through the roof. But I mean, we can look at DoorDash's stock price, even at whatever it is now, $70 when it was supposed to be at 500. You know, and Grubhub already selling off, or Just Eat's already selling off Grubhub. You know, that they bought for what, $7 billion last year, or whatever. So I mean, there's just so many clues, but a lot of people just don't pick up on them. They just like the here and now, and they hear that, oh, Prop 22 or this or that or that, and it's like they just jump on board, and it's like, you guys got to think of this through, man.
Yeah.
You know? So it's the same thing with like H1, 2, 3, 4. I think that the reason they get a buzz is because people get excited. The people who talk to Prop 22 people who were believers in AB5 or, you know, in the union portion of all this, and they want to become employees, and they're hearing these stories, and so they jump on board. But what you got to remember is that in California, 85% of the drivers did not want AB5, or 90% plus.
Yeah.
So, but those 10% were the only ones making noise. The 90% weren't even talking about it, because they just were like, dude, I don't want that. I don't care. So the only thing you really heard was the buzz of the people saying, yeah, I want that. And
the vocal minority.
It sounded like it was the majority, but really it was just this small group of people who were making noise.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like that here too. But
I think it's like that everywhere. I think all the states that are doing these are,
I think
you're only hearing from the people that want it. The people who don't aren't out there like canvassing and saying, no, we don't want this.
No, they're too busy actually doing the work.
Right. They're doing the work. I mean, because when you see these, like when you see the groups and stuff, and you know, they're protesting for unions and stuff, there's always like 15 people there. You can't tell me that that's like the majority.
No.
You know, in a city like LA, you know, you'll see Gig Worker Collective, and for a month they'll plan this big event and they'll have like 30 drivers there. I'm like, this is not a big deal.
Yeah, they had a strike in Boston over the summer and there was like 20 people.
Yeah.
And I was giving rides. I was giving Lyft rides. And people were like, oh, aren't you at the strike? I'm like, there's nobody there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. So I know that, you know, you work a lot of the platforms that I do too, but so I don't know, what is your take on your situation? When did you start doing?
I started Lyft. Well, I signed up for Lyft and Uber in 2014. So I've been doing it since 2014. Basically, as soon as I came to Boston, I signed up.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when I signed up, you know, Uber never went through because they screwed up my sign up and they messed up my name, and you can't change your name. So I never actually ended up working Uber other than Uber Eats, but I never actually worked for Uber itself as a rideshare. So I only did Lyft. When I first signed up, it was the old 80-20 split. We got 80%, they took 20. And every time they changed the rates, they would grandfather those of us that were there from the start. So for the first like few years, I was always getting 80-20.
Yeah,
and then finally at some
mine
point,
was 90-10. So I got to say, I got in at a really great time too. And I remember what you're saying, the grandfathering.
Yeah.
Until it just one day the rug got ripped.
Yep, exactly. And they know how to manipulate all of us to, you know, to keep us in there too. So, but even then, even when they changed it, you know, you definitely noticed a difference in what you were making, but it wasn't so saturated yet. Lyft started taking off as far as passengers go in Boston, like around 2017. Like I think it surpassed Uber.
Really? It wasn't doing good before that?
No, like the first year and a half, I was basically, when I was doing Lyft, you know, I always had a full-time job, so I was doing it on the side, but I was always just going for the guarantees. So I'd schedule 4 hours, and if you did the 4 hours you said you were going to schedule, you'd be guaranteed like $24 an hour. And there were nights where I gave like 1 or 2 rides, and I got paid like, you know, $96 for giving 2 rides because of the guarantee.
Exactly.
And then right around 2017, when I think it was 2017, when all the Uber stuff started coming down, Lyft started surpassing them and getting really busy. And it's been probably the number one in the Boston area ever since. Lyft is definitely more popular here. But the driver saturation pre-pandemic, like it was really hard to make money. And that's when I started getting onto other platforms. Signed up for Instacart, which I hated, but I stuck with it when Lyft was
I'm
slow.
so glad you think that, man, because I think it's the worst one out there.
It's the worst, so bad. And then I got deactivated from Instacart. And funny story, because I gave support a bad rating. Apparently, this is a thing where if you give support a bad rating, they can deactivate you.
You know,
I heard that.
Well, I never figured. I never was like, you know, I never believed in any of that kind of stuff. However, I just always skipped it because I was always like taboo-ish. Like, man, I'm just not going to do it because I feel like they will use it against you.
Yeah, I think they did. I gave a 5-star rating. I mean, like a 1-star rating to a support. Like the only 1-star I ever gave to support, and within 30 seconds, my account was deactivated because they weren't helping me. And I was just like, you know, I gave the 1-star. I said they didn't help. I left a comment about what happened because I was on with them for like 20 minutes trying to get like an order resolved, and they didn't help me at all. And then within 30 seconds, my account was deactivated. So that's when I signed up for Shipt after that. I don't do Shipt that much. I still do it every now and then, but I definitely prefer Lyft and DoorDash. DoorDash is pretty busy around here. It's not too bad. You know, after the pandemic, it's stayed pretty busy. The pay could be better, but it could be better with all the platforms, really. And I always tell people it's all about like working efficiently. It's not about how hard you work. It's about like working smart, working efficient, knowing when to be on, where to go, where like that's the mistake that a lot of gig workers make, especially around here, which I think is where a lot of these complaints come, where they're not making enough money because you can't just go online at like 8 a.m. and think you're going to drive till 3 or 4 and make what you need to make because there's so much dead time in that span of time. People don't understand that there's going to be dead times when you're just wasting gas and time. And so people don't do it right. They don't know how to work it. You know, they don't know how to make the system work for them. And then they end up, you know, being miserable and saying they want to be employees for the company.
Right.
But yeah, Lyft has had, like I actually do DoorDash a lot more than I do Lyft now. For the longest time, as far as the gig platforms, Lyft was what I relied heavily on. It was always pretty busy. The pandemic hit, obviously, like there was nothing, nobody was using it. And then what I found was about 6 months in, the passengers were coming back, but there was no drivers. So from like, I'd say like November of 2020 until September of 2021. So like almost a year, I was making more than I ever made on Lyft not because I mean they cut the pay again in April. They had cut the pay for everybody. I'm not sure what it is in Denver, but in Boston it's like 56.
I think what you're telling me is from my comparison to Denver, because Denver's a great market for gig work too, but like we didn't come back as strong as you did maybe, but yes, there were less drivers and they didn't do anything about the pay scale, but they did bring, like Uber, for instance, brought back the multiplier for the first time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We hadn't seen the multiplier in years.
Yeah.
And like in January of 2021, the multiplier was back and it was like 4 or 5 times again. And it was like, whoa, the multiplier is back. So you could really earn.
Yeah. That's how it was with Lyft. I mean, they brought the bonus zones. They didn't bring back prime time, but they brought the bonus zones, which in Boston are really good. Like you can see like $50-$60 bonuses on a ride during the busiest times. And it was happening a lot when there was no drivers on the road. Plus they brought back the ride challenges, which had virtually disappeared before the pandemic. And so, you know, it wasn't uncommon for me to make an easy, you know, working like 35 hours to make an easy like $1,500-$1,600 on Lyft. But that started slowing down when the unemployment ended and everyone started coming back. So I signed up for Curry in August of last year after listening to your podcast, and almost immediately started working with them. And they're definitely my favorite platform because they pay the best. But there's even now with Curry, there's a lot of saturation with Curry now here too. Yeah. But there's still some good rides that come in.
They did put everybody in a holding zone. All the markets like aren't pulling people in. I do appreciate that. So I saw a
Yeah.
little dip here in Denver too with Curry. Where I was like, damn it, guys, you're onboarding too quick now.
Yeah.
And so, but then they pulled it back, and now it's kind of slowly coming back, and they're still not letting people on, and some people have dropped off, and they're still not bringing people on. So now I'm seeing the price point come back.
Yeah. It's a good gig. I mean, I had a real good one like the other day. I drove something from here to Springfield, which is like 2.5 hours away. And then I got something coming back. So
Yeah.
I got paid back and forth. So I made like $300 for like 3 hours of driving. It was really good. So there's definitely good it's a good balance with Curry because they pay well per mile plus the time. Like you're making a good hourly wage, even if you factor in the gas money and stuff you're spending and the quote unquote maintenance on the car. But yeah, I mean, mostly, I'm mostly Lyft and DoorDash these days, and really leaning heavily towards DoorDash lately, just because I've been liking not having the people in the car.
So
honestly,
so look at this. So you know how Curry sometimes has a scheduled pickup?
Yeah.
Where it's your first ride of the morning is a scheduled.
Yep.
So I saw an order come in, and I was like, well, that's great. And actually it's a long ways from where I am. It's 250 miles from Denver to Durango.
Yeah.
But what I did was, I don't know if you've ever had to email Curry or through the app contact them. They're awesome. They got some of the best support there.
They're really good. They're very good.
So I said, I actually got in touch with them. I said, I love this offer. I said, however, you got anything coming even partial way back the next day? And they looked and they said, nope. And I said, okay. I said, and then the offer went up $20. Nobody took it. And then they called me back and they said, hey, we have a scheduled that's going from Durango to Colorado Springs, which is 50 miles south of me. So I ended up making a triangle. So I did 250 miles, then like 225, then like 50 back to Denver. But I got paid $460 to go to Durango. I got paid $330 to go from Durango the next morning to Colorado Springs, and then deadhead up to Denver. So I made $790 in 26 hours and got to spend the night with some friends.
That's good.
In Durango.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
like,
good.
There's
been a few times. There's been a few times where they've called me. I've been taking something that's long distance.
Yeah.
And they've called me and said, hey, we got something coming back if you want to bring this one. They're really good about like picking up on when that happens too. Because it's happened to me several times since I've signed up.
Yeah.
And I can't complain about that. They're like I said, they're the best of the gig platforms right now, the best paying. It feels like they're the smartest ones running it.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't feel like they manipulate us the way other platforms do as well.
Do you ever do
manipulation through the algorithm, if you know what I'm saying? Like, Lyft especially knows how to manipulate people through like staying out for streaks and stuff like that. They all know how to manipulate you to stay out.
Well, that's why I like, that's why I like Curry. And like what I was telling you is most people on the Curry who even like Curry, like we do, don't know to do what I did. Don't know, hey, let me call them and see if they can hook me up with something coming back. Because they think of these like, calling Lyft and being hooked up with people in the Philippines. And you're like, yeah, I'm in Colorado. And they're like, what's Colorado? You're like, a state. And they're like, Jesus, like this is going to go nowhere. So they're so used to that kind of service that they don't know that you can literally call Curry and say, listen, I'm happy to do this, but you got to give me something coming back. Or maybe it's not out of Durango. Maybe it's somewhere on my way back that I can pick something up, and even a partial back. Because like this alone wouldn't have justified me doing 500 miles.
Yeah.
If I didn't get something coming back.
Yeah.
But I mean, $790 for 520 miles.
Yeah.
I'll do that all day.
Yep.
I'll do that every day.
It's a lot more than you're going to get on any of the other platforms. That's for sure.
Oh, for sure. But you got to do things like call them, and people don't know. They're like, I don't want to talk to some customer service people that don't know anything. I'm like, it's funny because the first tier of Curry are the people who actually make decisions. When you call them, they're like, they can add money to your pay. They can do all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So it's but there's we're actually doing a week from this Thursday, we're doing a roundtable on YouTube that is a company that's in Chicago, New York, and Boston. So it's in your market called what's it called? It's called Metrobi. You ever heard of Metrobi?
What is it? Metrobi?
Metrobi. They're a last mile service company too. I haven't worked them because they're not here in Denver yet.
They do you know what they do? It's a similar thing.
Yeah, kind of. It's not construction materials. It's kind of a B2B and B2C model. So it's Metrobi.com, I think, is their website.
I'll have to look
But yeah, it's got that same curry flair, and they're trying to pay really good. They try and you got the one thing with them, it's unlike curry, but it's probably a good thing is you have to at least have an SUV truck, anything higher, just kind of like curry pays better the bigger the truck.
Yeah.
But you can have a Sprinter van, any of that kind of stuff, but you can't have like a car. The car isn't going to work on Metrobi.
Eliminates me because I drive a Prius. So
yeah.
But and even like with the Prius, like I got plenty of like so around here, and I heard one of your curry roundtables too. There was a couple of other drivers saying the same thing. Like with Sherwin-Williams is one of the bigger accounts here.
Oh yeah.
A lot of paint supplies. I get those like multiple times a week. And then there's another one that there's another client they just picked up. It's like an electrical company. And there's one pretty much every morning that gets scheduled. It's like the next town over for me. So I always take it.
I mean,
so there's plenty of car like accessible things with curry around here too.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've taken like 3 boxes of nails for $50, like 12 miles. I mean, this is kind of a common thing for me is to have like a $48 order local Denver, Lakewood to Denver, 11 miles, $48.
Yep.
I mean, to me, that's what? That's $4.25 a mile. I'll do that all day.
Yep.
I mean,
absolutely. Why not? I mean, why wouldn't you? It would be stupid to ignore those ones when they come in.
I've found that the real basically if it's in Denver and it's under 20 miles, I will blindly grab it. And I've made a couple where I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have taken that, but I'm okay with it still. It's the long ones where you got to actually look and say, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it'll be like 70 miles and then it pays like $80. And you're like, well, that's 140 miles. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. I've seen some of those come in and I haven't taken them. But then like you'll wait and a lot of people don't take them. And then, 20 minutes later, it goes up in price.
Yeah. I saw one of the weirdest things ever the other night was for an order that was, let me see how much it was. So, okay, it was North Glen to Frisco, 81 miles. And it started at $100. And it was weird because it was like 10 at night and they were pinging me every 5 minutes with like a $5 update till it got to like 190.
Really?
And it said rush delivery. So I knew it was like 4 right then. It was like Sunday night at like 10:30 it started. It went to like midnight or like 11:30, just incrementing. I'm like, dude, stop buzzing me. And the next morning I didn't pick it up, and the next morning I saw it come back through and it came back at the 110 rate, and I was like, wait, you had it up to 190 last night. It was the same run, and then they kept pinging until they got up to 200, and I took it at 200. So, I mean, it's crazy though. I'm just like, why did you pull it back? You should have started the next morning at 190.
Yeah. Wouldn't have taken as long to get someone to pick it up the next time.
Yeah.
There's one that comes in. There's a couple that come in every day here that are in Boston that go to like Cambridge, which is like, well, it's only like a few miles, but on a good day, Boston to Cambridge can be like 45 minutes. So a lot of times those ones get ignored because it's only like $15. You'll see those ones get up to like $60, $70 sometimes just because no one takes them.
Yeah.
No one wants to take like a 45-minute drive, like a 45-minute ride to drive like, 5 or 6 miles for like $15 because then you got to do something on the way back too. Especially for someone like me, I live like 20 minutes south of the city. So for me to get into the city, it's like 20 minutes plus whatever traffic I'm sitting in.
So
just to pick it up.
What I can't remember what is your other job?
I teach driver's ed.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Because my son just finished his online classes. Like now I got to start doing his training in his car. So I got to do it here. I don't know what it's like in your state, but you got to do. I don't know what the hours are. It's like, X amount of hours driving with him for,
It's for us, it's 12 hours driving with the school, 30 hours driving with the parents.
Oh, for us, it's
in
like
our state.
For us, it's like 80 hours with the parent.
It should be more like 80 hours. Like the
but
kids
he hasn't done.
like,
but he didn't do any hours because of the pandemic. It was online.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
well, if you factor in the class,
in the
class time and the driving hours, it's a lot more than that. But just for on road, So
Yeah.
our state requires 30 hours of classroom time and 30 hours of driving time with the parents, plus 12 hours of driving time with the driving school.
See,
And
I grew up in Michigan. I'm trying to remember. I mean, I'm turning 50 this year, so but I don't think that we had any hours. I'm trying to remember. You know, people are like, no, it couldn't have been. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it was, dude. I think you just took because I took driver's ed, and yes, I went out and I did some driving with my dad and whatnot, but there wasn't anything that was like a requirement. It was like once you turned 16, you could go take the test. If you could pass it, that's all they really cared about.
Yeah, that's how it was. I mean, we had driving hours with the driving school, but we didn't have to take driver's ed when I took it. I mean, I took it in the 90s.
Right.
But so you could, when you turn 16, you could just go get your license. But now this state requires you to pass driver's ed to even be able to go get your license.
Right. Yeah, that's he passed the class, so now he can go get his permit, and then I can start working with him. So, but then you got to like clock all the hours and talk about all this and that and the other. But so okay, so Gig World when you started was still part-time for you though?
Yeah. It's been mostly part-time for most of like the 8 years I've done it. There's been like 2 years in between where it was full-time for me, where I wasn't doing anything in between. I've been on and off at the driving school since 2013. So I was at the driving school when I started it.
But just like from when you started part-time to now part-time, like what's the percentage of, and I know it's, you know, you're comparing apples to oranges because there's more people working the platforms, the pay has gone down and there's all kinds of factors, but like how much are you making? Let's say you worked 20 hours every week 4 years ago when you were part-time to compare to doing the same 20 hours now. Like what is the percentage of how much do you think you're making against what you used to make?
What I used to make? Probably about 70%, if I had to guess. I make about 70% of what I used to make. You know, if I go out and work 20 hours, I can probably average $20 to $25 an hour. Because I work smart. I know where to work.
Yeah.
But that's working smart. You know, I know plenty of people that tell me they make like $10 an hour.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of knowing like when and where to go, basically. But you know, 4 or 5 years ago, I could work 20 hours and I could easily average like $30 to $40 an hour.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you about, this blew my mind was that like we were talking about Instacart. I saw an Instacart order at, I don't know if you guys have Sprouts out there. It's like a more organic grocery store.
No, we don't.
It's kind of like a Whole Foods.
Yeah, we have plenty of Whole Foods, but we don't have Sprouts.
Okay.
No.
So Sprouts it's nationwide, but it's not in every state, I guess. But so Sprouts is usually a tip off to like something that might pay a little better. And I saw a Sprouts order, and I live like 3 miles from the Sprouts, and it was shop, and it wasn't just pick up the groceries, it was do the shop and deliver them. So, and the delivery was like 3 miles the opposite direction of my house, or 4. So 3 miles to Sprouts, 4 miles to there. So that's 7 miles. So it's going to be 14 round trip. It was a 51 item shop at Sprouts for, and the 14 miles for $9.01, no tip. Yeah. So here's the thing. So that's $4.50 an hour, because this would have taken me 2 hours round trip.
Yeah.
So that's $4.50 an hour. And I mean, right now the gas has gone down a little bit, but at the time when I saw that, gas was pretty close to that $4.50. It was right up around 4. So basically, if I drive a RAV4, so 14 miles is going to be 2/3 of a gallon, right?
Yeah.
So 2/3 of a gallon at $4. Okay, we'll take out that. So I'm going to make $5. So I'm going to make $2.50 an hour to do this. And honestly, I still have all my apps running all the time just because I like to take note of things. Yeah. And I saw that and I was like, nobody's going to take that. It got taken in like a minute. I was like, who the hell takes this?
It's many times I've been on Instacart and I've seen orders like that come in where it's like, 7 to 10 miles and it's 70 items for like $8 or $9.
I just don't get how people honestly see that though and think, okay, I'll just do that one. Like that one doesn't even require any brain work. You can see that and go, I'm going to get screwed every direction on this.
if you check the forums, people think that it's because they're going to get a cash tip, which
Yeah.
rarely do I get cash tips. Have I gotten cash tips on Instacart?
Yeah.
But so many times that was happening where I stopped. That's part of the reason I just hate Instacart so much, because the amount of driving and work you have to do to fill a shop and deliver is not worth what you're getting paid from them. Discount the tip. I don't even care how good the tip is. Instacart should be paying better for what they're making you do, really.
Well,
And
Instacart should also, I have my biggest problem with Instacart is that they are the only company I know of that allows bots to grab, or doesn't allow, but doesn't do anything about the bots. You know what I mean? Like if I type, it's weird. I've told like Hannibal and some of the other people, content creators and podcasters that I know, I've told them about like I don't know another company where if on social media you type in the word Instacart, even if you're like, screw Instacart, they're the worst paying gig, where in about like 10 minutes, you're going to have replies that say, I know this guy on Instagram who can sell you orders.
yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's so weird. You just type in the word Instacart. You don't even have to hashtag it. And all of a sudden you're going to have all these people hitting you up about these bot orders. And it's like, that seems like it'd be very easy to crack down on, because anybody types in the word and they come. So it's like, you should be deactivating every account that's pumping that crap.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't understand. It's like any other of the gig companies, is as scummy as they all are. I don't get it, because they would all stop that in a minute.
Yeah.
They would not have bots grabbing these orders and letting them be resold to groups that are charging you on a monthly basis to be in these groups and get select orders.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like this is tech that they could crack down on so easy. And I'm just like, okay, they literally don't care. They just don't care. They're like, okay, I don't care. It's like,
I think they're probably afraid if they did crack down on it, they'd have less people to fill those orders.
yeah, but I mean, I don't know.
Because I can tell you around here, like, I mean, there's definitely probably bots around here, but orders will stay on the platform for a while here before anyone scoops them up. But that's in part because they just pay so poorly. It's not worth taking them.
Well, that's the other thing
with
too,
shipped,
though, is
shipped tends, I see the shipped ones go a lot, a lot higher than Instacart.
yeah.
Pay a lot more than Instacart does for like what you're doing, where you're driving, and what you're delivering. But yeah, the Instacart ones will just stay there forever.
Shipped, even if there's not a tip on shipped, I on average like close to half the time on a non-tip order, I'll get a tip. I mean, when I grab it, go do it, then after the fact, I'll get a tip. And
Yeah.
I've been in the service industry forever, so that's what I'm used to anyways, doing the service first and then getting the tip.
Exactly.
But I know this is a weird culture. It's a weird thing that they created by Travis, where he was like, you don't need to tip on the platform. They didn't even allow it on Uber. And so it was like they created this no tipping environment, but people know better. They know they should be tipping these people. However, like DoorDash, it's very difficult to add to a tip, and it's very difficult to withdraw a tip. That's why like our team at Para, for instance, like this is why DoorDash hates us, is because of what we're doing at Para.
Yeah.
That's why they gave us 2 cease and desist last year, and we actually cease and desisted. But now we're back at it, and here they are in New York City showing full transparency now.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's like and that was kind of our thing too, was like, just if I remember David Pickerel, who's the CEO of Para. David and I, we talk all the time, and we work together, and he was the operations manager for Uber Las Vegas for years. And when we were dealing with our lawyer and DoorDash, the one time that we had an actual conversation with the team at DoorDash and their lawyer and our lawyer and everybody, was it got put really simply, because they were bringing up a million things and throwing them in all directions, and everybody couldn't even keep track of the damn conversation. And David was like, whoa. He's like, listen, let me make this simple for you. You show transparency, we'll take you down off the platform. He goes, we'll remove DoorDash from the platform if you just start showing transparency, but saying, here's a $2 base pay and there's a tip of $2 or more. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just, people can say that. I've asked people who believe in, there's a reason for that. I always question them, why? Because I'm like, why shouldn't it be 100% transparent? And they'll say, well, you'd already have cherry picking.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why DoorDashers have the best DoorDashers have under 5% acceptance. So like a top dasher that has 100% is probably one of the worst dashers.
Yeah. Not really.
The best dashers are under 10%.
Yeah.
Because they know
I think around 40%, but there's a lot of good dashes around here. So, I do accept a lot around here, but
yeah. But I mean, it's just, it's like on top of it's just like it's adding salt to the wound to me. It's like you guys had a platform that showed the tip and everything, and you actually spent money to cover it up. Like you spent money on a coding team that covered it up and made it not transparent. When you built it, it was transparent. And then you said, wait a minute, let's quit showing them everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, I put it into like construction terms sometimes. It's like you would never, if you're like a plumber, you would never go to the construction site and the foreman says, hey, okay, you're an independent contractor. You want to do a bid on this? Here's the deal. I'll pay you $50 and at least another, like maybe you're saying you want 2,000 for the job. They wouldn't say, we're going to give you $50 and we're at least going to give you another 50, maybe more. You know what I mean? Like independent contractorship means you're going to get the full details and amount up front. And that's how you make your decision.
Yeah. Well, in many cases, in independent contractors, you're setting your own price if it's like your own business too.
Right, right. That's what I'm saying, like a bid.
When I was DJing, I always set my own price. I didn't, I put my price.
And if you said, if you said, hey, listen, I'll DJ for the night for $250. They were never like, how about we give you 50? And then if we like what you do, we'll maybe give you more.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you did a deal where it's like, I want 250. And they said, listen, like we only budget out 200 because I owned and operated a bar for years. So we can give you 200. Let's see how well we do that night. If you bring some people in, I'll give you 300. And I've actually done that. I've actually gone over what they wanted, if I didn't know much about the guy, because if they could bring in some of their own crowd, sure.
Yeah.
But like, I would never, if somebody came in and said, well, I like to charge 250. I never said, tell you what, you show me what you can do and I'll pay you $50 and then we'll pay you more if you do well. Like I never took their amount down to 20% of what they wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like, that's not how it works. So how is anybody supposed to make money if you don't know what you're making?
Yeah.
I know that sounds so dumb, but every time I say it, even all these years, every time I say it, it sounds stupid.
Yeah. Well, it's a basic thing that isn't really transparent with the platform. That's unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know, how, I guess one of my questions for you is how much lower can they go before you say, screw this?
For DoorDash?
Any of them.
Or all of them? Yeah. I mean,
that's why
honestly.
That's why I used the percentage. If you're making 70% of what you were for the same hours.
Yeah.
I mean, in life, things are supposed to go up in pay.
Yeah.
You're supposed to build and go up.
I always joke. I say this is the only job I've ever worked where I get like a decrease every year. I mean, Lyft literally cuts the pay every year. Right. Every year, Lyft cuts it. Yeah. So, yeah, there is a point. It's for me. It's like when I notice that I'm busy and I'm not even making close to what I should be making. I'll know, basically. Yeah. Because I'm not going to drive. I know everything. I know every penny I take in. I know every penny I put out. I keep track of everything. So I'll know when it's time. I think there's a lot of gig workers that don't know. They don't know how to track everything and know what they're driving and know what they're taking in and how to account for taxes and stuff like that.
They have huge algorithm teams too that work on the saturation level. And so when they see the saturation, so let's say they want 300% of what's needed online at all time. They know that, let's say that they know that they need 2,000 drivers on a Friday night for a certain platform. They want 6,000 on. Okay. So let's say that's because 250% is the average on the gig platforms. They want 250% of what's needed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, first of all, we got a big problem there. And they say it's because of people canceling or people being lazy and not accepting, but that's bullcrap. Because if you reduced the amount of people on the platform, you could afford to pay more money. Because a lot of what people do see it as just like these platforms are scamming you. No, they oversaturate. And even though they only pay the people who pick up the orders, it does cost money to run background checks, to have bigger servers, to run that many more people, so all of a sudden the cost becomes a lot more when you have 3 times as many ICs working on the platform. So I get that, but it's like, you guys, they need to start leveling out what's needed, and not just, hey, we need 10 times as many as we need. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Well, let's
Well,
just
I can't speak for other markets as far as like that, because I know Lyft does that for a fact. They like, really oversaturate. And to
Right.
a point, DoorDash does, but DoorDash does do a fairly good job of limiting how many dashers can be out during non-busy times, at least.
Right.
So, because it won't even let you go online if it's non-busy time and you're not a quote unquote top dasher. So they definitely limit. They have some sort of mechanism that they can limit how many people can go out. It's a matter of are they
Right.
going to use it at the busiest times?
I feel like now here in Denver, I don't know. I only dash when we're doing like beta testing with Para, or if Gary Middleton wants me to beta test the driver utility helper. Then I'll go do it, but that's just not my gig. I'll do it to do the testing and learn what's going wrong.
Yeah.
In fact, it's kind of funny because I was telling my son that when he's learning how to drive, we're going to be doing some DoorDash.
Why not?
Hey man, you know what? Like, I don't know where the insurance lies with phase 3 when you actually, once you have the food to the customer. So I told him, you'll drive around. When we get a ping, I'll accept it. And you'll drive to the location. I'll drive from the location to the customer. And then you'll take back over driving again.
Sounds like a plan to me.
I mean,
why not?
that I can justify going out for that a little bit, but I really only do it for beta reasons, because I don't know. I mean, I know what you're saying about the blocks and, oh, you can't dash right now. Sometimes they'll have a dash now option, but I feel like it's just turned to, you can always dash. There's always a way to dash. Here in Denver,
if you schedule it ahead of time, you definitely can.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, they seem to, here in Denver anyway, they seem to have moved to a model of like, the scheduling really doesn't matter anymore. You can just dash anytime.
It still matters here, because there's times I'll look and go on and it won't even let you schedule a dash.
Okay.
During some of the slowest times, but I know when it picks up, it's going to be available anyway, because they're going to need the people out there for the busier times.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can limit the people during those times, they can certainly limit them when it's busy. But there's been times I've gone into like a Taco Bell to pick up food, and there's like 11 other dashers waiting for food there. And it's like, how is there this many people out at one restaurant at once?
Yeah. I mean, are the tips still up there for you?
Yeah, the tips are up there.
I mean, they haven't dropped at all. People are still tipping well.
People are, for the most part, some people tip like crap, honestly, but those ones you just don't take.
Right.
Yeah. I take, what I like about DoorDash is I can stay in my area. Mm-hmm. I know my area very well. Mm-hmm. So I know all the restaurants that are popular with DoorDash. So I know like where to be, how quickly I can get to a place, mm-hmm. whether it's worth taking it. I know I live not too far from a couple of towns that are very, very wealthy, that people order from a lot and tip very well there. So Fridays and Saturday nights, you can make a lot of money doing DoorDash. Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of like knowing how to work the system, really. And that's why I tell with any gig platform, you have to know how to operate. You got to operate it like it's a business, not just like I'm trying to make. I know some people do it just to make some extra money, but like when I run everything, I run it as if I'm running a business. I track every little penny I make and every mile I drive, and like I need to know where every dollar is going. So I know whether it's worth it. I can't even tell you
the amount of people I know who really don't even take any kind of I mean, you don't know. I don't care if I don't know if you're familiar with the Dashing Grandpa on YouTube.
I listened to the podcast last week. That was the only way I knew him from.
Yeah. Okay. So he's a good guy though. He works in Texas, I don't know. There has to be a way to get away from the crap orders. There has to be a way to get to a better base pay. There has to be a way to get to, I know that they think that they can onboard forever, but it will end. Like I've had Harry on the podcast a few times, the rideshare guy. And we've debated this, and he said, no. And I've said, yes. I said, they will run out. And he's like, that's what I used to think, but they won't. They'll be able to always onboard. I'm like, no, they won't. They honestly are running out of, like, now they've gone through the whole country. They've already
Yeah.
been through, everybody's already tried these platforms.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
Yeah.
I mean,
And you
10
have to
years
have a
later, they've
certain,
all done this and they've gone, no,
yeah,
I'm not doing that crap again.
yeah. And you have to have a certain mentality to know how to operate it to even want to stick around to do it, because I can see where for so many people it's just not worth sticking around to do it. So
Yeah.
and the more they abuse the drivers, the less profitable it becomes for them to even to do it. That's why I said I'll know when it's time to hang it up and forget about it, because there is going to be a point. It's there will become a time where it's just not worth it anymore, because I mean they keep on cutting. They're not going to raise the prices. They're not
Well,
going to raise
so
the
let
rates.
me ask you this then. If they, okay, if you're estimating that you're about 70% now of what you were in the prime of it, what if it was 60% or 50%? What's that number where you'd go, nope? I mean, how
Yeah,
close is it
I think
getting?
right around 50% is where I'll be like, yep, I'm done.
So see, but that's so, how sad is that? If you're saying that once you're making half of what you were years ago,
Yeah,
and
but
obviously the
yeah, you
cost
also
of
have to
living
understand
goes
where I'm
up
coming
every
from.
year.
But there's a lot of like life things that come into play here too, because
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
married, I have 3 kids.
Yeah.
I use this
I have, you know,
to help us get by, right? So
yeah.
but it's at a certain point where the 50% hits. That's where it's like, okay, it's not helping. It's actually taking away from like my quality of life at home. It's not worth the money I'm making to go out and drive if I'm only making half of what I used to make. 60% I could still manage, because 60% of what I used to make is still a pretty good rate compared to what other people are making at W-2 jobs around here. You know,
Does DoorDash has referral codes, right? I don't even know if I've never even looked at mine, to be honest.
I don't know. I
Because
never looked.
I was just gonna tell you, why aren't you handing kids that are graduating from your driving school? No, like, hey, exactly what I'm doing. Hey, give this to your dad or mom.
Yeah.
Because while you're learning, they could be making
Yeah.
because honestly,
They can be paying for the driver's ed.
no, but I mean, like, I know people who kind of rely on the referral monies. Like, that's kind of, that's another sad thing, is when I know people who are like, well, 30% of my income's always referrals. I'm like, dude, from the gig work anyway. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's really sad that you've turned to, you have to like bring other, you know, it feels like Amway or something.
Yeah.
Feels like a pyramid scam. Like,
Yeah. Well, it does in a way. It does.
like,
But I don't. I
go get
usually
5
don't.
of your friends to get in this junk. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, like, and they count on that. It's like, well, I get a lot of referral money. It's like, God, man, that's going to end. And these companies know it. They'll bring the referral down real low. And like, I know you're in a big market where, you know, you probably don't see it like I do. I don't know what the population of Boston is. We're at about 800,000 here. You're probably way over
Yeah.
that.
It's like 1.1 million or something like that.
I would even say more.
Well, more of as far as people working in the city, but actual residents of the city, it's a little over 1 million.
But in Boston proper,
Yeah.
not all the extra, or are you counting all the surrounding?
No, I'm not
too?
counting all the other stuff on the outskirts.
Okay, because I'm
no.
counting everything. I'm counting Denver and then all.
Oh yeah,
Arvada, Lakewood, all
everything around it. Oh yeah, so it's way more than that. Yeah,
you'd be like up near 3 million or something.
probably closer to 3 million. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, you guys have a just crazy market, but I don't know. I mean, like, so here we are talking, and it's just the more drivers. I mean, this is just disgusting. So as prices of living and cost of living and inflation and everything's skyrocketing through time, even not like it is right now, extra more, but just in general, we're like we're constantly finding a number. Like for you just said 50%, and I get it, you need that money, but it's like, that is so sad to say, hey, I was making this many years ago, but until I get to 50% of what I was making, I can keep doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, I mean, there just have to be better gigs out there. There have to be.
Yeah.
That's why my goal is to be searching for these. And that's why I was asking you about, you know, Metrobi and stuff, like, because like, you got to search out these curries. You got to search out these things, you know, the dumpling, you know, I'm all about dumpling. I'm starting a dumpling challenge right now, you know, so really? I'm like, yeah, because dumpling is the only platform, the only one where you're truly an independent contractor. You have to bring in your clients. You have to, I mean, they give you a credit card. They'll let you handle everything through the card, but you have like a page on their website. You are truly an independent contractor. You don't, they're not going to send you pings. You got to go get clients.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like, you know, you can shop, you can, and then dumpling lets you use it for everything. So like, like right now, my test with Dumpling, because I know Joel, the CEO, is to see how far I can expand out the services, because it started as grocery, but it's like he found in the first year that, okay, if you do grocery delivery, he found people saying, hey, listen, if I give you a key to my house because you become like their regular grocery guy, can you put the groceries right into the fridge? I'll give you an extra $10. Sure. Hey, hey, when you're here, can you let my dog out to give you an extra $10? Sure. Hey, I'm going out of town this weekend. Could you watch my dog? Sure. You know, hey, I gotta take my kid to this thing, but my other car needs a tire change. Can you go do that for me? Sure. All of a sudden you can be pricing out all these things and using the Dumpling card. So I think that's a model that other people need to look at, is like letting people start expanding this, but also at the same time, maybe helping them feed some initial clients to get you going.
Yeah.
That's one thing Dumpling doesn't do, is feed you the clients. You really have to go out there and beat down some doors. But like Matt tells, was like one of the biggest Instacart shoppers in the beginning. And he was all over their news in the beginning of Instacart. And then he crapped on the company because he's like, you guys are the worst. He took on that view and he went to Dumpling. Now he's like the Dumpling model, because what he did was he started with 3 clients. He used 3 people he knew, 2 friends of his parents, and he's in his 40s. And then like one other person he knew, he was doing grocery shopping for him. He has never once lifted his finger to do any advertising, but word of mouth has gone to get him more clients than he can handle. So literally like word of mouth has got around to like, you know, he's doing shopping for this one person. They're like, yeah, I use Instacart, but they suck. And I always get different people. I don't know what they're going to do. And it's always like, might be good, might be bad. And they're like, oh, I use this guy from Dumpling. What's Dumpling? It's like Instacart, except for it works and they're good. And so like all of a sudden he's getting referrals just from doing a good job. You know, so I think we need to start moving to models like that. But I'm starting to doubt, even like for a long time, I always had hope of like how these companies will start combating it. But I am starting to think that, you know, none of us want to be employees, but I'm starting to think that there's gonna, you know, as much as I don't like it, there's gonna have to be some regulation.
Yeah.
There just is. I hate it,
yeah.
but there's gonna have to be, because if there's not, they're gonna scumbag this to the floor. I mean, here's something that I don't even understand, and I have not been able to get a straight answer really from anybody, is Lyft and Uber. Like here in Denver right now, Lyft and Uber, well, they're okay. So here's maybe not the best example because it's at 58 cents for UberX, but like, what is it? Raleigh, North Carolina, they pay 53 cents a mile for UberX. Okay. It's 58.5 cents a mile to write off on your taxes. So who's covering that difference? Because the federal government's giving you back 58.5. They're paying you more than the company did. Yeah. Like that seems like breaking a federal law to me.
Well, it would be if it was you were getting an hourly wage and a gas compensation, but you're not actually getting when you're driving for Lyft or Uber.
I know
you're not actually getting compensated for gas. You're not actually getting gas compensation.
I feel like they should go after him on that angle, though. I feel like that's the angle with the rideshare part, anyways. Like, really, you guys are going to go under the standard deduction.
I understand that, but I just feel like in the end that would
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
In the end, somehow something like that would hurt the drivers. But I mean, they should be paying more per mile anyway. Like
yeah. But I mean, it's just beyond sad that I used to make the 90-10 split, like you were talking about with your 80 split. But like, not only that, once they did move me to the dollar rate, it was still at $1 or whatever a mile.
Yeah, I think it was $1.13 or something when they first started it.
Right. When they moved you off 80-20, it was still high. It was still like, because that initial switch was supposed to make you think that, okay, it's still the same amount. It's just a different way of looking at it.
Yeah. It was like, oh, it's pretty close. Yeah.
Right.
I knew it was less. I think their whole less,
but you and I knew that. I mean, obviously their plan was, okay, let's pivot them to this. It'll be the same pay, but then in a month we'll move it down, and then constantly we'll move it down after.
Yeah, it was I cannot, because I can remember like it was yesterday. It started at $1.13, and then like 3 months later, they sent us a notification that the next month they were going to be cutting it down to like 89 cents. So they went down like 24 cents a mile. in like a 4-month span.
I remember that too. We went from something into the 80s, and then I remember the next pivot was in something, whatever it was in the 80s, went to 65 cents. And I was like, what the, you gotta be kidding me. You're going from 84 cents a minute or a mile to 65. And I was at $1.10, and I was at a 90-10 split. What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and that was during the race to the bottom period pre-pandemic. Now, I mean, you know too that both of these companies were undercutting each other by a penny.
Yeah.
Lyft would undercut Uber by a penny, so they would not raise a price. Now they're charging 300-400% to the customer. The pandemic allowed them to make that move. And it's like, well, if you finally made that move, like they were scared to, and I get that, but now they've proven they could have done that. Now I don't, now I'm blown away because they still can't make a profit. They're charging 4 times as much. They're not paying anybody anymore.
Yep. They're not paying the drivers. The drivers aren't seeing any benefit from that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to think you have to go with these alt apps. You have to start working the side apps that you hear about from people, like even Shipt or Walmart Spark, and you got to catch them at the right times. You got to, you know, if a new app comes in your area, get it, start working it. If it sucks out of the gate, leave it. But if it's great out of the gate, abuse it during the honeymoon period, you know, because as soon as it goes down, it's going to go down big.
Yep. Well, I even saw that with like, you know, Instacart when I first signed up. I was getting like crazy money on Instacart at first, but it only took like a month for it to all of a sudden start getting those $7 and $8 orders that
well, and I know,
take you 2 hours to do.
I know Boston isn't, and actually Denver has never been a cheap town, but Denver over the past 12 years has gone crazy. Like we're starting to see mildly like cost of living prices like some California areas, and probably somewhat like Boston, let's say.
Yeah.
And so here it's like now, like you're seriously gonna you're trying to pay me 58 cents a mile to, I mean, seriously, like you can't.
And tack on 45 cents per ride for the gas benefit.
I guess my thing is you're asking to get the worst of the worst people doing these jobs.
Yeah.
In the crappiest vehicles that are allowed. You know, that's what you're asking for. You're asking for people
and you get the like. Did you watch the clip of the video I sent on the Lyft video I sent? Because that's like the biggest problem I think is like you get that, but you also get the people that like are, because they're getting paid less and less and less, they're working more and more and more, and they're maxing out these hours every day trying to make what they need to make, and they're on the road for like 16 hours. And yeah, there's a cap on how long you can be on in a 24-hour period, but if you spread that out throughout the day, you get someone that's been up for like 17 hours trying to drive someone. It's super dangerous too. Absolutely. So, you know, there is, like you said, there is some sort of regulation that's going to have to happen. I think they could easily prevent that if they would just raise how much they were paying per mile. You know, forget about the time. I mean, that was a big thing in Boston. There was a big battle that they had in Lyft with the region, specifically in Boston, was all the drivers here somehow got them to raise the per minute rate. But then when they did that, they lowered the per mile rate even more. And because all the drivers were complaining about sitting in traffic.
Right.
So it ends up hurting you though, because when you get those longer rides, you know, you're up the creek because it's not worth it anymore.
Yeah. You know, to me, and you've probably heard me say it on the podcast, I don't even need the permit. Just show me everything up front. Just show me just show me where I'm going. Show me where I'm picking up. Show me where I'm taking them. Show me the amount of money I'm going to make. I don't even need the per mile. Just show me what it is. Show me everything. And I know my market. I know the time of day. I know, to go there and get him, to go there to where he wants to go and to get back to the area I want to be working in. I know what that costs me relativity, you know, in relativity. So it's like, okay, I know how to just look at that and do it. Show me that. Just show me that. I don't even need this crap anymore. I don't need the per minute, the per mile. Just show me what I need to know. Show me the details and I'll make an informed decision.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
and it's kind of what Uber's doing right now with Trip Radar. You know, Gary Middleton and I were talking about this, that, you know, Trip Radar was coming out and we're like, what is this going to be? And it's like, you know, what it ended up being is the crappiest offers ever. And they were being round robin served out to like 50 people at once. So you'd go into one and it would say viewed by 10. And you're like, what is this? Because I mean, obviously it's something we've never seen before. What is viewed by 10? It means 10 people looked at it and we're like, no way.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they're
Yeah.
taking the worst of their offers and putting them into this radar system. It's like a test to see how bad of an offer people will take.
Yeah. That's definitely probably what it is too.
And sadly, it's like you guys are already at the bottom of the barrel. How can you be testing to see how much farther you can go? Because I mean, some of these people are just doing it out of desperation. It's not like you're actually learning anything. It's not like you're learning people will do this for this much cheaper. You're just getting people that are that hard up and screwed that they have to
They have to take it.
a few dollars. They have to make $3-4.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean,
Yeah. That's why I said like my amount would be 50%, because once it hits that point, it just I'm never going to be that hard up that I would need to make less than half of what I used to make.
yeah.
I'll just go do something else. I mean, I have plenty of other ways I could probably make money. It's just this happens to be super convenient.
Yeah. I mean, I like it still because I can juggle all my gig apps, you know. And now, I mean, back in the day that you were talking about, like the 2014 era for me, I would turn on, I had Uber and Lyft, but I would just turn on one because I'd stay busy. I'd make great money. I didn't even need to worry about it. Now I've got 7 active apps. And when I start a day, all of them go on. I don't care. And I just let them battle it out.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Before I wouldn't have done that because I actually cared because remember, I don't know if you remember, but back in the probably in the same for you, when it was 80-20 for you, they told you if you fell beneath 80% acceptance, you were kicked off the platform. And actually they did used to kick people off the platform, and that's illegal. You can't kick people off the platform for an acceptance rate because they're independent contractors.
Yeah.
So it was a very weird thing, but they would let that happen. I'm actually okay with that if the pay went back up. Yeah. I'm okay with a system that says people that are cherry picking in a system where they go back up to paying a little better. I'm okay with that. Like let those people get kicked off because they are just, because now the people who are cherry picking, I fully agree with it. I think that's the only way you can make money.
Yeah.
So you forced them to cherry pick. What you need to get back to is a model where you know, maybe even somewhat get approval from the people that, yeah, I'm fine with you deactivating me, even though I'm an IC. I'm fine with being deactivated under 80% if you pay me better.
Yep.
You know, I mean, because I would much rather work under a model like that because I think it would weed out a ton of people. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that would lead them to seeing lower overhead and saying, okay, we can pay you a little more.
Yep.
You know, or pay bonuses out monthly based on acceptance rate.
Yeah.
You know, especially for like rideshare. Like if you're at 100% acceptance and you're like, God, I've taken some bad orders this month. But if you do 40 hours a week or X amount of rides in a month, you get a $1,000 bonus.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then all of a sudden I'll take every ride because I'll just go, okay, I'm going for the 1,000 bonus. If I get a bunch of crap in the middle, that's fine.
Yeah. It'll be a wash. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I'm at like, you know, I've always had a high acceptance rate on Lyft. I'm at like a 97% on Lyft, I think, for acceptance rate.
Yeah.
I mean, the only benefit I get is I get to see the direction of the of where the ride's going and how long it might be.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you get the warnings. I don't know if you do, but for over 45 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. But you don't even have to have a high acceptance rate for that. They'll show you that. Well, in Boston, they show you that anyway.
Right.
If it's over 45 minutes, you're automatically going to see that it's going to be over 45 minutes.
I think it's like that in every market, but what they started doing here, which sucks because we used to have, so I live in Park Hill, which is adjacent to Stapleton, which is part of Denver proper. And Stapleton used to be the airport like 25 years ago. Now the airport is 30 miles out of town, 25 miles out of town. So no matter where you pick up in Denver, it's a 45-minute plus ride, no matter where. Except Aurora, any other part of Denver is going to be 45 minutes plus. Traffic, no traffic, doesn't matter. So anything going to the airport, they don't have to say it.
Really?
Yep. I mean, Boston. Any other direction they have to put in there 45. This is over 45 minutes, but the airport ones, they don't. So that's big funny scam that goes on here. I don't know.
Well, ironically enough, Boston is one of the few airports in the country that's actually in the city, right?
Right.
But even from within Boston, they can take 45 minutes to get into the airport sometimes.
Right.
So you usually know. They don't tell you it's going to the airport, but you can usually tell if it's going to be an airport just because of where the airport is. You can see on the map. So they tell you it's going like 50 minutes northeast, you can see that, oh, that's definitely the airport, because you can see it on the map. That's the airport.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know, man. Uh it's a crazy game right now, and again, it's like the misleading people of California. And I'm actually eyeballing your state, because if this H1234 goes through, I don't think you guys have a good Prop 22 type style thing in place, even though Lyft already put in like 60 million, and the other
Yeah,
companies
they're
are
trying
starting
to
to dump
get
in
their
some money
own.
too.
They're
But
trying to drum up their own thing for it, and I mean, this all started like a couple of years ago when the attorney general put in a complaint
right,
against the rideshare companies.
yeah,
So it all stems from that, and then like the legislator had felt like they had to like get involved, and but the referendum is, I think what the question coming up on the ballot in November is from the companies, from like Rideshare, Lyft, Uber, DoorDash, Instacart. I think they're the ones that are putting the question forward. So it's like their own version of it that they're
so
trying to get the people to agree to before our state senate and state house can vote on their own bill.
right. So let me ask you this one last question before we wrap it up, because this is key to me. Is that, like, I don't know if you're familiar with how AB5 went down, but the way AB5 went down was almost like a midnight closed door session with Governor Newsom, and it was
Yep.
like there was some wind of it, but most people weren't aware. And then it was all of a sudden like, like, okay, AB5 passed, and people were like, what's AB5? I mean, like, nobody even knew what it was, and it
Yeah.
passed, and it was going to be in law January of 2020. And then it was like everybody started figuring it out, and Uber said, no, we won't do it. And then they had to fight to have Prop 22 put on the ballot and be allowed to stay in the state of California and operate the way that they were operating until Prop 22 was voted on. But it's weird to me. Is that how it's going to go down in Massachusetts? Are you going to wake up one morning and find out H1234 is the law? And then you're going to have,
Well,
then it's going to have to be a fight on the ballot. Cause in my opinion,
hopefully
it
the
should be a
ballot
vote.
hopefully they don't do it overnight. So the way Massachusetts works, it's very bureaucratic, and it takes forever for them to vote on stuff like that, even if it's something that they really want to try to push through. So the hope is, from my end, the hope is that we can get to November and vote on this ballot question before they pass that bill,
Right.
because there's no plan on when they're going to vote on that. I
Right. But
suppose they can do it behind
that's my
closed doors.
concern, is that you're going to wake up one morning and you're going to just
Yeah,
find
I
out, like
mean
California did, that, oh my gosh, it's
they
law.
could. I mean, I suppose it depends on how much pressure is being put on them from. I think the unions are putting a lot of money into that
Oh
bill
yeah. Yeah.
too, and so it depends on how much pressure is coming from the other side, really. And because
Well,
I don't know how many lobbyists.
the way I look at it is, if they do a big cast net like they did, like in California, it was to target the gig workers. Like, we're going to do AB5 to target the gig workers. And then they were like, wait a minute. The unions were like, while we do this, let's just target every independent contractor, freelance writers, cartoonists, this, that, the other, musicians, anybody who works independently, let's target them. And they cast this huge net instead. And now all these people are, 40 years in business, are out of business.
Yep.
In the traditional gig economy. And one of the carve outs ended up being for the gig economy, which was with the target of Prop 22. So it's like all these other people didn't get it, but all of a sudden we're going after the gig economy. Well, we're going to get out of it with this Prop 22. Okay, but we're still going to get everybody else. But you weren't even going after them. They've been in business for 50 years. It's like, we don't care. It's like, I think that if Massachusetts says we're going after the gig economy and only goes after the gig economy and doesn't cast that big net, I feel afraid that you guys might wake up to this is a law. And then you're going to have to do that same type thing where it'll be like, okay, well, in the next ballot, we're going to vote on a proposition. And then if Massachusetts tries to say, well, you still have to follow the law until then, you're going to find Uber and Lyft saying, we're out of here. Bye.
Yeah.
And in California, same thing. It went to the midnight hour, and then they were like, all right, you can stay. Because they actually realized that people, to get to work and whatnot, it wasn't like people chose rideshare and they could move to all these other things real quick and pivot. It was that the economy had become dependent on the rideshare.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, hey, you can all take buses now. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like, okay, yeah, we can go back to that. People were like, no, there isn't enough now. There's too many people. We need rideshare, else we're not going to get to work.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. It's
they
like that
actually
around here too.
okay, because yeah, I mean, I don't know if they go after all of the traditional workers and stuff, it's not going to happen. But I have a feeling that your state's only going after the gig workers, and sadly, I'm a little concerned that it might go through.
Yeah. Well, the one saving grace is that we already have that question on the ballot.
Okay,
So even if they did try to pass it, I'm sure there would be some sort of injunction to try to stop it, at least until the ballot got voted on by the people in the referendum.
I
Kind of
mean, do you
similar
think
to
do
what
you
they
think the
did.
people of Boston would want something like that though?
See, this is the problem: is I don't know if people understand it. Like I don't know,
Yeah,
they're not. I don't feel like right now they're doing a good job of portraying and showing people what they're actually voting for, and why they'd be voting for it, and why it would be good for people to stay independent contractors as opposed to W-2 employees, and the benefits that people get having that flexibility. They don't really. I mean, they mention it,
hmm,
but from like talking to people, it's like they just hear that and they're like, yeah, right. They just want to take advantage of everyone. Yeah, you're probably better off being employees because it's portrayed from the other side as like, oh, you have stability, you have protection when you're an employee, and that's what people hear, and they think, well, I'm an employee and I
yeah.
get protection and stuff like that, so these people should too. So then they lean towards the opposite and not making them independent contractors. That's my fear, is that like they're not doing a good job. They're putting all the I get emails all the time from the Independent Contractors Association trying to like promote the question, asking for volunteers. And I look at like this, I look at the materials and it's just like, yeah, you're not really like articulating correctly, like what is really important to these people and why it's important they stay independent contractors.
Hmm.
So that's my fear, is that people aren't going to fully understand what they're voting on and why they should vote with the
But see,
question.
that my thing with that is like, and I don't know, maybe this was just my upbringing, but like my dad, he was old school, and he was always like, listen, when I started voting, he wasn't trying to tell me what to do, but he was like, listen, he's like, when you're voting, if a proposition's on there and you aren't gung ho about it and you've been part of the movement and you know every part of it inside and out, vote no on every one. So like the common theory is to just vote against those type things.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so I mean, I don't know, unless they're doing a really good job, like you say they're not, unless they're doing a really good job of portraying why, and then most likely it wouldn't pass. But that's what we said in California too, and there it was.
Yeah. Because right now a yes vote would keep everyone as an independent contractor. It would give everyone that base pay of active time. I think it's 120% of minimum wage, and but it would keep the flexibility, at least. There's probably some aspects of it that aren't good for independent contractors, but better than the alternative, because what's being proposed in the state is a lot more harsh and loses everything that. No, it's AB5. I mean, they basically have taken,
Yeah.
and this is what all the states are doing. They've taken AB5 and they've made that their template for what they want to
Well,
do.
but that's the part of the problem, is because oddly enough, and most people don't know this, that AB5 legislation in California has been in place for 40 years. You're actually a state that has it too. You have AB5 legislation already in your laws, and they're now just saying, hey, why have we been overlooking this? And that's how come they were able to suck it through so quick, because they're like, hey, here's a little angle that we have on this that's
Yeah,
already written in here, so they don't even have to pass it. AB5 is part, like, it's called something different for you, but it's in your laws already. Like, they already
yeah.
have that angle to make it happen.
Hmm.
So that's why they need to make it a proposition. And I don't know. So if it, you even see this right now, even after everything you've said of, if it gets to 50%, I'd have to stop them at 70%, whatever, you still know I don't want this,
Yeah,
even
absolutely,
though the pay
100%.
is so down. And you've heard things from California. So that's good to know, man. Cause
Yeah,
that's my concern, is that too many people catch wind of it and they're like, well, that sounds great.
yeah. No, my thing, the most important thing to me, other than like making somewhat decent money, but the most important thing for me is the flexibility, is the
Yeah.
ability to be able to turn down the work if I don't want to take it, the ability to go back and forth between different apps, the ability to not work if I don't feel like working, instead of spend time with my family or the fact that I have a job that I have obligations to too, that I have to work around. So,
Mhm.
if it gets to the point where they pass that, a lot of people don't realize, all of a sudden Lyft can say, all right, you have to be online for this time and this time. And if you don't, we're going to deactivate you. Instacart can say, you have to shop these orders from this time to this time. And if you don't, we're going to deactivate you. DoorDash can say, you have to take these food orders from this time to this time in this area. And if you don't, we're going to deactivate you. I don't think people realize that back end, what can possibly happen. They're just seeing the money aspect, but they're not looking at all the other stuff that goes with it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, awesome, dude. This was good talking. You should join us once on Sunday. You should come on a Sunday and join us. I don't know if you know that we do that live stream. It's like an open forum. I let everybody on that comes
Okay.
on Sundays. Yeah, it's what would it be for you guys? It's 1 p.m. Eastern. It goes like we run it like 2 hours, but I put the StreamYard link up and I actually just tag. It's the only time I just let anybody come on. But I mean, like we always have kind of the same kind of crew of big creators and stuff, and we have great discussions. You should come by sometime and join in.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's every week, and just come by because we always have good discussions and love having new people in that understand the game.
Cool.
So that'd be cool, man.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely.
But yeah, thanks for your time today, and it's always good to get perspective too, because I love talking to other markets, because I think that you guys are a really important market right now too, because you could potentially be the next California.
Yeah. That is my fear. That's for sure. I'm definitely afraid. There is a little bit of fear of that.
And I always tell people too, like, hey man, do you live in California? No. Have you ever thought about moving there? No. Okay, then do you at least have a concept that California has issues? Yeah. Okay. Do you want to be like that? Because there's a reason why California is California.
Yeah.
I mean, and why a lot of us don't go out that way.
Yep.
Because we don't want to live in such a crazy place where it's just like anything can go. And I get it. California produces more money than many countries. So it's like, we need California, but at the same time, it's like they just do everything backwards.
Mm-hmm.
To at least to those of us with common sense, they seem to anyway.
Yep.
So, well, awesome, dude. It was good to meet you, and
good to meet you too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Keep checking out the podcast, but come on by on Sunday, man. We have a good time on that one.
Absolutely,
sometimes it even turns into a variety show, and we end up talking about all kinds of crazy stuff. So.
All right, we'll do.
All right, man.
All right.
It was good to meet you, and we'll talk soon.
All right, see you soon.
Peace.